Hey everyone, this is Gray Merchant of Magic, with what will hopefully be the first in a series of videos on the creative inspirations of Magic's bottom-up planes. Mark Rosewater, head designer of Magic, defines bottom-up as mechanical-based, as opposed to top-down, which is subject matter-based. However, bottom-up planes can still have a very strong creative identity. For this video, I'm going to discuss one such plane, Tarkir. Tarkir is a bottom-up plane because it was originally conceived for its unique draft structure, with its flavor developed afterwards. I chose Tarkir to start this series for two reasons. Firstly, it's my favorite plane in all of Magic. Secondly, it references and takes inspiration from the traditions of a multitude of Asian cultures and various other sources, giving us plenty to talk about. Let's start. The Abzan houses. The Abzan were primarily inspired by the Ottoman Empire. Growing from a coalition of Turkish tribes, the Ottoman Kingdom would, at its height, control territory across Africa, Europe, and Asia. It lasted from the end of the 13th century until the early 20th. Much like the Abzan houses, the Ottoman Empire is made up of united, semi-autonomous tribes and clans. The Ottoman Empire's dramatic expansion was due to raids conducted against neighboring areas. The Abzan mirror this, with most of their creatures being of the warrior or soldier classes, and many of their cards discussing an apparently endless state of war. The Ottomans were particularly famous for their skilled archers, which is reflected in the cards Longshot Squad and Archer's Parapet. The Khan of the Abzan and of Friends of the Foremost is described as leading her people into battle in person. Similarly, the Ottoman leaders often accompanied their armies into war. The armies of the Ottoman Empire were originally nomadic. Emulating this, the Abzan take their homes with them wherever they go. One of the reasons the Ottomans were able to achieve such great success was through the practice of div-sirmi. Through this policy, the children of conquered areas were taken, converted, and drafted. These individuals sometimes achieved great political power and reputation. The Abzan utilized a variant of div-sirmi. The orphan children of their enemies, known as Krumar, were adopted by the Abzan and raised as their own, being considered full members of their respective houses and fighting for them. The Ottomans and Abzan also shared strong religious beliefs. Ottoman leader Bayezid, in particular, was a devout follower of mysticism. Similarly, the practice of ancestor worship was very important to the Abzan. Abzan architecture also takes great inspiration from that of the Ottomans. For example, compare the Ottoman room-like fortress to the art of various Abzan cards. Note how they share a similar coloring and design. The armor and fashion of the Abzan is also rooted in Ottoman influence. Notice the similarities in headwear and flowing robes especially. Two civilizations also shared a fondness for curved swords or scimitars.
Your curves are kicking!
The Abzan's use of African animals such as ibexes, rhinos, and elephants reflects how the Ottoman Empire extended into northern Africa. Similarly, the Aven that partially make up the Abzan resemble African vultures. Finally, the Abzan's greatest value is that of endurance. The nobles of the Ottoman Empire were highly committed to preserving the traditional Ottoman way of life. Ultimately, their civilization endured for over 600 years, outlasting many of its surrounding kingdoms. However, despite the Abzan taking major inspiration from the Ottomans, they differed in a couple of major ways. Firstly, the Ottoman Empire was often aggressively militaristic, constantly seeking to expand its borders. The Abzan, on the other hand, were more defensive, seeking mostly to protect their territory and trade routes. Additionally, the Ottomans lacked effective siege weapons for much of their history. In contrast, the Abzan had enough siege beasts to destroy any standard enemy force, in their path. While the Abzan primarily referenced the Ottoman Empire, a few other sources were used as well. The massive war elephants with towering saddles that the Abzan used take clear inspiration from the Mumakils or Oliphants of Lord of the Rings. Much like the Abzan, the Mumakils' riders, the Haradrim, were an alliance of tribes that lived in a great desert. Additionally, the mask depicted in the card Honor's Reward does not resemble that of any Ottoman armor. It perhaps takes inspiration from ancient Greek death masks, or the fictional armor of the Persian immortals of 300. Finally, the Macedon, a real-life pachyderm that the Abzan have weaponized, lived exclusively in the Americas, at least 6 miles away from any Ottoman territories.
Get out the way! Get out the way!
The Jeskai Way. The Jeskai draw inspiration from the Shaolin Monastery of Henan Province, China, built over 1500 years ago. The monastery sits atop one of the peaks of Mount Sam. Similarly, the strongholds, temples, and academies of the Jeskai are dotted across Tarkir's mountaintops and cliffsides. The Shaolin Monastery is Buddhist. Buddhism teaches that there are 4 noble truths that lead the path to freedom from suffering. Similarly, the Jeskai believe in 6 fires that light the way to enlightenment. This reflects the Buddhist concept of Buddhahood, in which one is awakened or enlightened. Additionally, both Buddhism and the Jeskai Way value the sacred lotus and what it represents. In addition to religious dedication, the monks of the Shaolin Monastery were and continue to be famed for their martial arts and physical prowess. The Jeskai share this affinity. Shaolin Kung Fu is divided into many different styles, as are the martial arts of the Jeskai. The Jeskai's propensity for flowing orange or yellow robes and shaving their heads also comes from the dress of the Shaolin monks. Some of the Jeskai architecture also takes inspiration from the monastery, particularly from its curved roof and strong red coloring. However, the Jeskai went up to the Shaolin by adding a skate ramp to their temple. Finally, the designs of the animals and animal people of the Jeskai are influenced by the animals that inhabit China, the location of the Shaolin Monastery, specifically the harrier hawk and the praying mantis. The Jeskai and the Shaolin do differ in some ways though. While there are many Buddhist temples across Asia, they are not unified to the degree that the Jeskai strongholds are. Additionally, the Shaolin Monastery has generally been under Chinese rule. The Jeskai were their own civilization under their own authority. While the martial arts of the Jeskai have a strong Shaolin influence, the more mystical depictions take inspiration from wuxia, Chinese martial arts fiction. In this genre, mastery of the martial arts leads to an array of fantastical skills, clearly reflected on certain Jeskai cards. Disabling an opponent by striking specific pressure points is a particularly common trope in wuxia. A Grand Master is the head of a fraternal order, such as the Freemasons. Additionally, the Ifrit and Djinn, who partially make up the Jeskai, come not from Chinese, but from Arabian tradition. The design of Tarkir's Ifrits also take inspiration from the Applejack Cinnamon Stick Man and that one Travis Scott meme. The Mardu Horde. The Mardu Horde primarily draw inspiration from one of the most bloodthirsty and ruthless groups in human history, middle school students. Sorry, they actually reference a much less brutal and dangerous civilization, the Mongol Empire. The Mongol Empire began in 1206 and lasted 162 years. At its height, it was the largest continuous land empire in human history. Much like the Mardu, the Mongols were nomadic raiders. The Mardu most valued the trait of swiftness. The Mongol Empire achieved its success partly due to the efficiency and speed of its intercontinental messenger system. Additionally, the Mardu and the Mongols have a near-identical battle strategy. Both begin their attacks with mounted archers, and lightning wielders in the Mardu's case, before fighting hand-to-hand with their now disoriented enemies. The two hordes also share similar armor, in particular their helmets and armored skirts. Lastly, the Mardu use a style of bow also utilized by Mongol archers, and the horses that the Mardu ride resemble those of Mongolia. The major difference between the two civilizations is that unlike the Mardu, the Mongols were conquerors. While they would occasionally completely obliterate territories after defeating them, they would generally take them over and incorporate them and their people. In contrast, the Mardu raid their enemies but don't do much in the way of full invasions. It is also important to note that while Genghis Khan is the most well-known non-fictional Khan in the West, he is not the origin of the term. He was born Temujin and will not take the pre-existing title Khan until later in his life. Like the Abzan before them, the Mardu also take inspiration from the Lord of the Rings. Their orcs being ravenous barbarians harkens back to Tolkien's genre-setting depiction of them. The influence is especially clear from their warg-esque monsters that they ride, and the cannibalistic urge of the crave that the clan undergoes while under Kholagan also resembles the cannibalistic properties of the orcs of the Lord of the Rings.
Looks like meat back on the menu, boys!
The rock comes from Middle Eastern mythology. Lastly, some of the Mardu members wear armor resembling that of Japanese samurai. Brood. The Sortai Brood. The Sortai Brood take primary inspiration from the Khmer, or Angkor, state that originated in 13th century Cambodia. However, the Sortai reference a greater variety of sources than the other clans we have spoken about so far. The primary trait shared by the two kingdoms is intrigue. The Khmer court was plagued by coups, usurpers, and political rivalry. At one point in the state's history, a new monarch arose an average of once every 10 years. Similarly, the Sortai court is a den of backstabbing and infighting between various would-be rulers. The Khmer also struggled against the forces of physical and environmental decay. The Sortai flipped the switch by weaponizing their decay and using it to their own ends. Khmer architecture, the temple complex of Angkor Wat especially, serves as an obvious influence on the Sortai center of Peru. In fact, the Angkor Wat was a massive royal tomb, in turn influenced the Akkad necropolis of the Sortai. The Sortai also take inspiration from Khmer boat design. The fashion of Sortai's members highly resembles that of Khmer people as well. Many of the animals of the Sortai reflect those of Southeast Asia, such as crocodiles, cobras, and vultures. Southeast Asia is also one of the first regions to cultivate bananas, which is why Mark Rosewater has declared war on the region numerous times. Similarly, the Sortai vampire variant resembles the regional mythological creature of the Layak, also known as the Pinagalan or Managao. Rare Sortai demons also resemble this. The vampire's penchant for face stealing likewise resembles a variety of Asian spirits. The Naga and Rakshasa also originate from the Hindu and Buddhist beliefs that Khmer followed, but as I'll discuss later on, other sources factored into their respective portrayals. As previously mentioned, the Sortai take inspiration from a disproportionately large number of sources compared to the other clans. Aruspics come from ancient Rome, not Asia. Mandrills are found exclusively in Africa. Also, mandrills are monkeys, not apes, and are no longer considered to be baboons. Plus, they very rarely return from the dead as giant zombies. While the Naga do come from Southeast Asia, Tarkir takes some liberties with its depiction of them. Rather than being cunning, dangerous mortals, the original Naga were semi-divine and frequently beneficial to humans. Similarly, the Rakshasa of Hindu belief were not inherently evil. Additionally, they could take on many forms. Tarkir's depiction of them as exclusively tigerish seems to be borrowed from Dungeons & Dragons. Lastly, they were not known for being devilish dealmakers. That is more of a trope of Western demons. The Timur Frontier. The Timur are based on the shamanistic peoples of Siberia. Like the early Siberians, the Timur family groups are nomadic hunter-gatherers living in a near inhospitable frozen mountain range. The two peoples share strong spiritual practices and beliefs. Both hold shamans and the spirits of nature in high regard. Speaking of those spirits of nature, the designs of Timur's ravens, elk, grizzly bears, cave bears, and woolly mammoths come from Siberia as well. In shamanic revelation, we see cave paintings similar to those that have been found in Siberia. Finally, the clothing of the two groups also match up, especially their headgear and fur coverings. The Timur also take elements from cultures and areas outside of Siberia. The state of being described in Awaken the Bear resembles the berserker fury of Norse culture. The phoenix originates in Greek mythology, and the somewhat similar Feng Huang from China. Likewise, the Yeti hails from the Himalayas. The goblins and some of the ogres of the Timur resemble the Yeti as well. The elemental Scion of Glaciers resembles Cernunnos, a god from Celtic tradition. Additionally, neither mastodons nor saber-toothed cats lived in Siberia. Just a tie-dye dragon. Dragons. The dragons of Tarkir are divided into 5 broods, each with their own unique designs. Dramoka and her brood resemble the dinosaur Ankylosaurus, with their down-to-the-ground physique, tough, sharp scales, and thick limbs. Ojuchai and his brood's designs are similar to that of the Huang Huang, a bird of Chinese myth. Tarka and her brood's chimera-esque design harkens back to the Quilin, a creature of Asian myth that makes dragon and mammalian features, including prominent antlers. Salamgar and his brood use snakes or eels as the basis of their design. The Dragon Lord's love of treasure utilizes the trope of Western dragons hoarding wealth. Kalahan and her brood also have a bird-esque design. Their 4 wings may be inspired by the 4-winged cherubs of Abrahamic religion. To finish up this video, I'll discuss the inspiration behind the aspects of Tarkir unaffiliated with a clan or dragon. The Salt Road references the Silk Road, being a massive trade route through many lands and nations. Kirin are supernatural creatures from various Asian cultures, comprised of different animal parts. Their arrival is said to foretell a powerful leader's rise, a concept that we see in Tarkir's versions of the creatures as well. This creature type also calls back to Kamigawa block. The Lama Su, in turn, is a protective spirit from ancient Sumeria. Tarkir's depiction of them as foretellers of great change differs from the myths, which characterize them as protective guardians. The Sambar is a variant of deer found across Asia. Peak the horizon resembles the real-world phenomenon of Aurora Borealis, or Northern Lights. The Sagu Mauler appears to be a particularly upset yak, a creature found across Northern Asia. Collateral damage and pyrotechnics depict a gunpowder weapon similar to those from Chinese history. Huge stone retainers and Keeper of the Lens appear to be based on the Terracotta Army of China. Ancient carp references how carp, an Asian group of fish, grow in their environment and have been reported to live for over 200 years in some instances. Dance of the Skywise mentions a religious belief similar to the cycle of reincarnation found in Hinduism and Buddhism. Impact Tremors references the trope of Native Americans putting their ears to the ground as a tracking technique. Relatedly, Kindred Fairy references the idea that Native Americans of the plains used every part of the buffalo. Roast takes inspiration from that time you misspelled something in your group chat. Dragonloft Idol harkens back to Kashisha or Kameniu, statues of lion-like mythological creatures from China and Japan respectively. Finally, Scarelord Reckoner's flavor text quotes the Code of Hammurabi from Babylonian history. Thank you so much for watching this video. To be real for a moment, in these trying times, working on this video has been good for me. I worked on it in 2 countries, 2 states, and 4 cities, so I'm so excited to finally get it out. If you'd like to see me mess up more names, both real and fictional, please be sure to like and subscribe. Also, please leave a comment if you have any questions, suggestions for future videos, or things that I missed. Thank you. Meandering Tower Shell takes its physical design from the giant tortoises of Aldabra and the Galapagos. The idea of a turtle with mountains on its back resembles the war turtle of Hinduism and Chinese mythology.